What's up, everybody? We are back with another edition of the Ad Podcast. Today, I have an exciting guest for you guys. Gabriel Lullo is the CEO of Alleyoop, which is an outsourced SDR agency and a sales agency, one of the top 5 in the country. I met Gabriel through an interesting process. So as I've told you guys, as a sales leader, I'm inundated by text messages, LinkedIn requests, cold calls, and occasionally a phone call. Because I grew up in a boiler room, I actually do listen to all my voicemails, and generally I will return all my missed calls as long as they're not from spam filtered numbers. I called back one of the numbers, and SDR got on. He got my attention in the first 5 seconds. He was respectful, knowledgeable, and knew about me, and he convinced me to take a call with these guys. And I offer up the same offer that I give to any inbound company that's looking to either sell me sales SaaS or sales services, that I probably won't be a customer right away myself, but I would be glad to interview them and take my audience through their product live on the podcast, which I think is the only way us sales leaders can really learn about the greatest tools out there, which is from word of mouth from other leaders. That's how I hear about most of the great stuff. I can tell you that probably 99% of the people disappear when I hit them back with that message. And Gabe and his team actually went through the full process. It started with the SDR. It got elevated to their partnership manager. Eventually, I ended up on the phone with Gabe, and he took me up with on the offer. I was pretty humbled and excited as I went through the research today, realizing how big Alleyoop is, the fact that they're one of the top 5 players in the outsourced SDR space or sales agencies out there. So, I just want to give a little bit of that backstory, Gabe, before we hop in, but super excited to talk through your background and the company today, and excited to take the audience on the journey as we collaborate over the next coming months to show my audience exactly how the product works. So thanks again for coming on.
Well, thank you. And I'm a huge fan. And I mean, you can work here if you want. I mean, that was the best pitch ever for who we are. I mean, it sells itself after you hear that, I guess. But no, I mean, we're really proud of our SDRs. We do a fanatical job about finding amazing talent. And, we don't sell widgets. We don't have algorithms. We don't, have software. We're not a data company. We're a people business, and investing in the people and finding them and making sure they're top notch is what allows us to attract people and conversations like you had with our team. So excited to hear that. I'm excited to be on the show.
Yeah. Well, thanks, man. Well, it's funny. I actually did kind of opine as I was going to the research. I was like, man, what would it be like to be part, because I'm in the marketing and advertising side of the sales vertical. I've been there for 13, 14 years. But I was kind of thinking when I was going through the research, like, what would it be like to be at an organization where all you do is eat, sleep, think about sales tactics, and that part of it. So it must be an exciting place for you to have spent a good portion of your career. But let's maybe jump into that as the first question. Tell me a little bit more about your background and kind of how you came to become the CEO of Alleyoop. I know you are a boomerang employee. You left for a while to do some other things and come back, and you're now leading the helm. But I love doing the research on you. I think anybody that works as a recruiter probably has a pretty good job of how hard it is to be a salesperson. I don't know if you were a all commission recruiter or not, but those that generally tend to develop some really serious chops and some serious discipline during those years. I think I heard that you worked in a New York boiler room. I worked in a Los Angeles-based boiler room.
Yep.
And, my job was to call 100 attorneys every single day, get through to 10, get one to take a package, and close one of those 10 packages every single week. And I can say between the work that I did with Keith Ferrazzi, learning about relationship selling at Ferrazzi Greenlight, and then the work that I did in boiler room sales, getting past gatekeepers in an attorney's office, dealing with a high net worth and a high, like literally there's not, I think, a profession on the world that has a larger billable by hour time So getting attorney on the phone and getting them interested in what I had to say fast was a formative notch in my belt as a young person, to say the least. But would love to hear a little bit more about the things that kind of built you up and got you to your current role.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of it is even though we're on opposite sides of the country, is very similar in regards to experience. I went to school, got good grades, parents are educators, was told to do all the right things. You don't go to school for sales. So, when I was getting out, I wanted to, get into stocks. I wanted to get into financial investments. I had an internship in Manhattan. I found it by literally picking one of those tabs. Remember when they had paper like on like cork boards and you pull the number? Yeah,
Yep.
that's literally how I got my internship. And worked in New York. It was actually an alumni who was there, a stockbroker. You went to the college, graduated 5-10 years ago. Convinced him enough to interview me, and I made cold calls and literally called to. I didn't even use my name. I used his name. His name was Scott. I said, "Hey, this is Scott calling." As soon as someone picked up, I passed him the phone physically. That's
Nice.
literally how we did it. So, I
Wow.
mean, that was
Wow.
a long, long time ago. But I would tell you that's how it started, if you will. Um, got excited about sales, moved into recruitment after college. And to your point, I had about a 6-month draw, and then it was commission only, and I did that for 13 years. So, you eat what you kill, right? And it was all revolved around phone, and we recruited CROs, VPs of sales, VPs of marketing, so executive level recruiting, but all in the go to market space. That's where I was raised. But I was on a lot of traveling, a lot of physical, out and about. My daughter was about to be born, and I was looking to be a stay-at-home dad, remote, not on the road as much. And so I found a company called Inside Sales Team, was literally the name of the company.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all around full cycle sales. And then they were just starting to get into sales development as that role was opening up. This is 2013. And so that company, I said, "Hey, listen, I could come and recruit a heck of a lot of people for you." The founder was looking to grow, and hey, you got to be an SDR first. So I humbled myself and became an SDR for 90 days to prove I could do what I'm doing, and
Mm.
then moved into leadership, and then we rebranded, and that's what Alleyoop is today. I did leave though to go run 2 software companies. I wanted to see more of the tech side of the house and the operation, the financial piece of it. And I was number 2 here. So I decided to leave on good terms. And then all of a sudden I got a call, and the founder said, "Hey, I'm looking to retire and looking to take my foot off." He's got 5 kids. And I said, "Okay." And he said, "Hey, do you want to come back and, co-run this with me, and then eventually, take over as CEO?" And I said, "Let's do it." And it's
Wow.
been 3 years since. So it's been a great journey, but that's my story.
Very cool. Well, love the background. So I want to hop right into
Let's do it.
SDR training, because that's what got me interested in you guys. Like I said, I think anybody with CRO in their title, there's a lot of people coming at them. I am an SDR, or excuse me, a CRO of a small sales organization, and I still get a lot. So I can only imagine the guys that have, 100, 300 guys under them, or even teams that are bigger than that. The amount of inbound that they get must be punishing, to say the least. But all I remember, I don't remember the SDR's name, but I remember he was an American. Not that that's the most important thing, but it was definitely important that he spoke good English and that he could, it felt like he was on the call. It wasn't some robo dialer, and then all of a sudden, like, someone's trying to like get on and read a
Hmm.
script. He had some base information about who I was and what I did. And yeah, just very convincing, and got me into a casual conversation pretty quickly. And I talked him through, what I was and wasn't willing to do, and very quickly led to an appointment. That doesn't happen often, I'll tell you, because I think sales guys are either really easy to close because they're natural born optimists, and they believe that the glass is half full and there's an opportunity around every corner, and they unfortunately have to build guardrails in their lives, or they'll get completely run over. And I probably have been guilty of that. That I like to listen to a pitch and I give people the benefit of the doubt. But if I did that all day long, I wouldn't get anything done. And you have some qualification tools that you use when people reach out to you that we'll get into later in the show. But tell me a little bit about the SDR training program. How do you get people into the shape in which they are then doing outbound, either on behalf of you guys or clients, and doing it at a really high level where they're effective in getting meetings?
Yeah, for sure. So it's evolved over the last decade, right? When the SDR function was really coming out, and funny story, like we were the SDR agency for Zoom Info, which everyone knows. So first cold call ever made was done by our sales development team, and I can tell you when we were doing it back then, the role itself was so new that we had to create what we called Alleyoop Academy. And so when we sourced candidates, we didn't put them on the phone for at least 30 days. And
Wow.
we trained them in depth. We kept them on our bench, which is our Alleyoop campaign. So they're promoting us, but we're doing it on old leads. We're really monitoring things. We're not instituting multi-channels. We're just doing the phone start to cut their teeth. Then we layer in LinkedIn, then we layer in email. So it's very methodical. And we did that for years. And they graduated from there. And then they were able to get onto the sales floor. Now we do it very differently. And the reason why is the role itself has matured so much that we have a little bit of a, it's a buyer's market for us, if you will. There's over 800,000 SDR profiles on LinkedIn today. And
Wow.
so we don't source new SDRs who are just trying to get a first sales job anymore. We source candidates who've done it at least for a year minimum, who've cut their teeth at other places. And what we're noticing though is we still need to provide a significant amount of training because most companies and even internal teams or agencies are only been emailing. That's not what we do. And so we still have to do and find and source and select people who at least know what the phone looks like. And that's where we start, right? So then we take them through a series of interviews. We take them through a series of what I call gauntlets to put their calling and objection handling things to the test. Yeah, is it a proof to whether or not they'll be good? But we're also seeing where are they not good, and where do we need to fix and train and enhance. So that's the starting of the recruitment process and where we find our SDRs today. Again, we still do very similar on-premise, if you will, training when it comes to our team. And then once they get knighted from our campaign director who manages our in-house team, he's amazing. He's got 9 grandkids. He's been doing this a long time. Everyone loves him. We call him the Obi-Wan Kenobi over here. And but he's like the grandfather of our company. He's amazing trainer. But once he knights them, then they are able to be allocated to a client. And that's the initial part of how we do it.
That's very cool. So that's a crazy statistic, how many SDRs are out there. Obviously we've had some contraction in the SaaS markets. And so, you guys have essentially your pick of the litter, which is amazing. So how do you go from that group of 300,000 SDRs that are out there on LinkedIn and whoever's in market, and they're all doing email? Like, look, I'm guilty of it. Quite honestly, until doing the research on you guys, I thought the phone call was dead. I thought that the only way to get through is via social selling or good quality emails. And a phone call is to be set up. It's not to be, executed against. A couple things in my industry led me to think about that. One is I think I overcomplicated. I was like, oh, we sell sophisticated products over here. We can't just cold call into these agencies. The other thing is the media agencies, we were majorly affected from the whole, work from home stuff. I mean, definitely people are coming back. But even when these young millennial and Gen Z media planners would come into these big media agencies, some of the first thing they did is they grabbed the phone and unplug it and throw it into a drawer, right? So my assumption was you can't find valid phone numbers for these guys because they're not sitting at their desks anymore, and even if they were, they wouldn't answer the phone because they've unplugged it. So I think that was probably a bias that I shouldn't have just bought into wholeheartedly. And you broke down some serious stereotypes for me in the research that I did. So my long-winded question is, when you have a generation of people who have come up that don't like phones, they would prefer to Snapchat and to text and to DM and to do anything but pick up a telephone. Like, I just remember resolving conflicts amongst my junior SDR team, in which I had at 1.7, I think, at my last agency. And they would go back and forth about a conflict. And I'm like, did any of you pick up a phone and call the other one and talk to them? Oh, no, sorry, we didn't do that. It's like, what are you talking about? So when there's just this toxic, I guess, like when there's this kind of kryptonite idea that like picking up the phone is just something that's not normal, how do you self-select from that pool of 300 SDRs out there? Do you try and find ones that do have some phone and cold calling experience? Or can you take a guy who's done really well at maybe email account, and social selling and, all the other things, and can you turn them into a decent call-based SDR?
Yeah, I think it's really personality driven. I have an 11-year-old, right? And she's got an iPad. And I will tell you, she's on FaceTime with all of her friends all summer long, right? She's doing games and on Roblox, doing games, but she's also listening to her friends talk in real life time as they're playing games together. We're finding there's a lot of people out there in the gaming space that are young, now in the millennial age, right? The 20s and 30s who are gamers. Like I get on a video call with them to do an interview, and they're definitely a gamer based on the chair they have, the mic, what I mean, their setup. And so it's like those people, I really look at it as a personality. Are they outgoing? Can they communicate? Do they have the gift of gab? Are they what they call a yapper these days, which is very social right now, right? There's a lot of streamers and videos and content creators, people who are in front of the camera and talking. Yeah, they may not be using the phone, but they're absolutely verbally communicating in different mediums and tools. And there's a lot of influencers right now that are able to communicate. And if we can take them and hone that communication piece into a phone call with a business to business scenario, it would absolutely work. And we find people who are good at that to migrate over into cold calling, no problem. To your other point, I'd rather find someone who can have that and teach them the email and the LinkedIn than someone who's not able to have that communication but good at email and LinkedIn and try to get them to the phone. I'm not trying to say introverts are not good. I actually wrote a blog on my LinkedIn saying introverts are amazing SDRs. Because they're very tactful. They can work from home. You don't need to be an extrovert to be in sales. But at the same time, there are things that we look at, the ones I mentioned, that allow us to transfer that over to a phone call.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you kind of broke down in another interview just the categorization of what we think a phone call is. Like, this is a phone call,
This is a phone call.
This is a podcast. We're using cameras, we're using internet technology,
That's right.
We're using programs to put it out to an audience. But at the end of the day, if you break it down to its core element, it's us communicating from two different locations that we're not in the same room. And back in the day, I think you had alluded in another interview, this would have been called a conference call, where we dialed in and we punched in a number and we couldn't see each other. But I love that idea that you can really recruit from skill sets such as looking and seeing if they're a good social media content creator. Can they talk to a camera? That's a good sign that they can at least be fast on their feet and speak to an audience and speak to a larger group of people. They can probably speak to one person over the phone or video. So I love that you've just kind of broken down the idea of what a phone call is and got it back down to its basics, which is just two people talking together, either with or without video, and that aren't in the same room. That's a phone call.
Yeah. Here's a phone call: live communication, right? Email's off camera, right? Back and forth, and phone call is Saturday Night Live. Right. It's live communication, which we hire teachers, right? We hire people who are in acting. People, there's a lot of people who want to be starving actors. They can go, in the restaurant business. It's great for that, right? I used to live in New York. I worked in a restaurant. Everyone was a starving actor. Well, what's wrong with being a starving actor and doing cold calls? It's very similar. So if you're talking in any capacity in live scenario, there's so much transfer of knowledge that can go into cold calling well.
Yeah, I love that. Talking a little bit about the component that I mentioned around the post-pandemic work from home or work from the office or virtual, et cetera. Man, I learned so much being in an old school bullpen, in a room of old guys, all dialing, within proximity to me. They had their headsets on. And like, if I was like bullshitting with a prospect and he could tell that it was a guy that just wanted to, talk because he liked to talk to people. Like my manager would come out of that office, he'd get right in my face and he'd feed me a line. And if I didn't say it, like I was, so I would like completely change my composure and say whatever my manager said to me and drop that line, because he was a scary guy, but a great mentor. Yep. Just that proximity. I used to, we were calling on headsets, but my point of view back then is I'm always going to dress better than my boss. Not better, but more formal. So if my boss shows up in a suit, I'm going to wear a suit and a tie. I might have a cheaper suit than him, but I'm still going to have a suit and a tie. And no one ever saw me, and I didn't leave the office and do lunches and stuff like that very rarely. It was all phones all day. But there was something about getting up and walking around the room and that energy that if you had a live one and you go into the conference room and pace around. And I remember I got literal courage. Like when I felt like this guy was kind of bullshitting me, like I slammed on the desk. I dropped one of these one-liners that my manager gave me one time. I shut the hell up, and the guy's like, all right, I'll take a couple of units in your deal, whatever. Right. That stuff worked. So I guess I tell that story because do you guys, what's your office configuration like right now? Are people remote? Are some people hybrid? Do you have that camaraderie of like a bullpen? And if you don't, totally fine. But how do you kind of keep that cultural transfer of knowledge that is that, game of telephone that we all do as salespeople?
Yeah. So I think your audience will like what you're about to hear, because we've been able to do something that we're really proud of. Firstly, we used to be in the office. That was our main way of doing it.
Yeah.
In 2017, this is again pre-COVID, I was like, hey, listen, we got to recruit more and better and continue to grow. And we can't let our geography limit us from our ability to find amazing talent. So we made a decision to go remote on purpose. But when we did it, we had to find ways in which to solve all of the things you just said, which are so important on a sales floor. So we've been able to do amazing things and mostly it's leveraging technology and doing things most haven't done to do that. I'll give you a couple things. We purchased 1080p video cameras for every single one of our employees.
Wow.
Everyone is on video. Everyone is dressing up. I'm in a blazer almost every single day. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I'm wearing below. I'm wearing shorts and flip-flops, but but everyone is on camera. And by the way, it's not like one of those mandated where like no one wants to do it. Like we're all salespeople. We want to see the other people we're talking to. So right. Camera's a huge thing for us. We actually don't use Slack or Teams. We use Zoom as our internal chat function, which is highly integratable to all the other tools. But we can video call people like a FaceTime call right through Zoom. It's very powerful. So every call we make internally is through video.
Wow.
Secondarily, we also have virtual sales floors. So we work with a company called Orem, huge partner of ours. They're great. And they provide great dialing technology, but they also have a video-based virtual sales floor. So when we're making calls, we do it in call blocks, so segmented times where everyone's dialing at once, which is that energy you're talking about. But everyone is also on video while they're doing it, and your managers can hear and the teams can hear other people calling if they get a live one or something's important or, as something scenario or training purposes. So we're literally calling like you see me right now in a Zoom like grid, if you will. Through our dialer, and it creates a buzz for sure that you get on a sales floor, but we are fully remote.
That's cool. Well, look, I think that's the promise of technology, right? How do we take some of those things that absolutely added value in a pre-COVID world where, the chemistry of relationship building, and how do we facilitate some of that stuff through technology? I didn't think marriage therapy would work through Zoom, and it did.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's funny. I went to my chief operating officer's wedding before I met her physically. You know what I mean? And shook her hand. So it's like relationships can be built on video in ways that are very different than we were used to pre-COVID, and even just 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Totally. So a stat that I was pretty excited to hear, but was not surprised because it's your guys' primary methodology, is that 91% of your meetings are booked over the phone. Yeah. You guys are one of the top 5 SDR agencies. in the world. So nobody can say the phone is dead if 91% are being booked over the phone. The caliber of clients that you guys have is whether it's ZoomInfo or Adobe or others on your logo page cannot be argued with. So I am thoroughly convinced that the phone is not dead. With a 91% close rate, or 91% of the meetings are booked over the phone. What's the process like? Is that basically the idea that when the SDR gets somebody on, their mission by the end of that call is to get somebody to commit to a meeting, and you basically schedule it in that first interaction? Is that how that works?
Yeah, and we're not high pressure, high tactic, do everything and throw the kitchen sink at them. What we are doing though is the phone is the fastest way to get to a result, period. Now, we're also not saying no to all the other channels, but all the other channels revolve around the phone. So when we're emailing to have a phone call, and we don't email to set up a demo. We're emailing to what's the best time where we can talk about this so I can share some value with you. So we're actually using the email to tee up the cold call. We're doing LinkedIn, we're doing content, we're doing email, we're doing voice notes, we're doing video notes. We're doing a lot of things that are revolving around the phone call as well, but it's all to get to the phone call. And once we do, that's where the magic happens. And that's where we're able to convert them into a lead for our clients. Now, it's not just us, large organizations. You mentioned ZoomInfo. We know them well. Over 90% of their meetings are being booked on the phone for their team.
Wow.
They at like 500-600 SDRs right now. We see all the other organizations. Phone is not dead. Now, is it harder? Yes. Are connection rates less than it was a decade ago? Yes. But you can still say that or more when it comes to emailing. There's a lot more hurdles and challenges in email, especially recently than ever before too. So the phone is our main weapon. It's not our silver bullet, but it is the best way to get someone to action.
Yeah, I love that. And going back to the idea that your essential training ground is actually working on the Alleyoop campaign, I like to call this drinking your own Kool-Aid, right?
Yeah.
It's product-led marketing. Essentially, the way that you get business is the business that you sell to other companies. You basically sell a methodology, a strategy, a service that you use for yourself that then gets you clients that you then do that same thing for. It's like Salesforce, right?
You're a product of the product. Exactly. It's like product growth.
Exactly.
100%.
I love that one. That's a great one too. So can you talk a little bit about how that works? So you mentioned, SDR comes in 30 days, they're not even on the phone. They're going through videos and training and other things. And then you throw them into your campaign. What does the time look like for that rep? What is the expectations? What can they do to prove themselves and get, knighted by Obi-Wan and getting put out on the bench and getting onto a piece of business?
Well, I will say just a quick caveat there. It was not on the phone for 30 days in the beginning when we're only able to find SDRs that weren't SDRs before. Now, excuse me, they're on the phones much faster within the first week, frankly.
Nice.
And we like that, and they like it too. But we're doing it again with our own data. We're doing it with our own messaging. We're holding their hand. It's very white glove, so they can start to crawl before they walk, before they run, and they do that with us underneath our team and our brand that we know very well, and our messaging that we know very well. On the flip side, though, our ICP, they're very hard to get that meeting done, and we have a very high ACV. So if they can go through our gauntlet and they can deal with salespeople telling them no, which again, you're selling to salespeople and you're a salesperson yourself, and you're a junior salesperson, you're calling an experienced salesperson. So there's a lot of opposition on the other side of that persona, if you will. And so if they can get through that and handle that type of, let's call it rejection on our campaign, that it usually is almost smooth sailing when you go call a marketer, you go call an HR person, or you go call a finance guy, right? Which, we serve every type of company out there and under the sun. So every industry we represent. So usually if we can get them through our campaign with our prospects, it's smooth sailing from there.
Yeah, I love that. I listened to your interview with John Burroughs, who's come on to my show as well.
Yeah.
And man, I would hate to cold call that guy because you
Right.
could do so many things that could just get you disqualified. Like you could show up late or not show up fully researched or ask him a question he doesn't like. Like that guy has 100 triggers to show you that you didn't do things the way you should have, or that there's a break in your process somewhere. So
yeah, John's awesome. We're huge fans of his and friends of his. He's done some work with us. He's done some training with us. He's a great guy. But to John's point, or to your point about John, and to you as well, and all sales leaders listening, there's really two types of sales leader type prospects.
Yep.
Either they have this big chip on their shoulder, they think they're better than everyone else, and they're just going to get a cold call. And they're like, I'm just going to crush this guy. Right. And that's how they approach life. Great. I know you're not like that, but there's a lot out there in that have our types of titles. Would you agree? Right.
Oh my God. Yeah,
but then there's the other ones who are exactly you, who will respect the ones who are good.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you're taking the meeting just as a gesture because they got you, because you respect. Like, hey, man, you know what? That was a really good rebuttal. Like, I'll take the meeting. I respect you. Like, and those are the genuine salespeople that I love hanging out with. And it's great because they were there too. They get it. They're empathetic. They let them take their shot. And if it impresses them, it may not even be something they're interested in. But if it impresses them enough, they'll probably listen and take a demo.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's really the magic, right? Is, once in a blue moon, I'll get a subject line that catches my attention and I'll open it. And if it's a good email, I'll be like, wow, that was a good email. And I'll actually usually write back and be like, that was a good email. I'll take the meeting because it was a good email.
Exactly.
Same with a phone call, same with a good LinkedIn. I heard you talk about that, penny for your thoughts over PayPal. I don't think that would fly with me, but one time this was creepy. Like I went to a Rubio's Mexican restaurant with my family. And, this was back when like you would check in everywhere you went on social media, right? So share your exact location with everybody in the world. Probably not the smartest thing to do in hindsight, but I checked in or whatever. And then the manager of the Rubio's, came over with the phone from the store and was like, hey, someone's on the phone for you. And like handed me the phone, and it was some like sales guy, being like, hey, I saw you checked into Rubio's or blah, blah, blah. It was like the tactic was interesting. Like I was like, okay, this guy's got some kind of sophisticated social listening. He's come up with this strategy that he's going to call, restaurants as people are going into them. It was inventive, but just like creepy. It was just like not the right place, not the right time, and your data technique is turning people off versus making them think that you're smart or intelligent or have some, like, I wouldn't want you to do that to any customer on my behalf, So, right. Where I was going with that was kind of thinking about the idea of like, I wanted to ask a question on the data side, actually.
Okay.
So when we talk about the prior situation that we have with my ACP, which is a, young to senior marketer that may or may not be in an office anymore, that definitely puts a hard line, under the rug. Like, how are you getting cell phones mainly? Are you getting valid cell phones, and how do you do that?
Yeah, so we work with various data partners. Due to our size, you don't always have to do that if you have one, specific target that you're promoting, one product, your own company. But you got the Zoom infos, you have the sales intels, you have the Apollos out there. So we work with a lot of data companies. There's actually companies that just specialize in mobile enrichment. I will say the way we prioritize data. Now, this again, based on ICP, is usually mobile and then direct and then office. We have campaigns we're not even calling office at all because it's just literally a waste of time. We also have other companies that we're only calling office.
Huh.
So it depends on the actual title and the persona and the ICP we're reaching out to. Government, that would be a little different. But in many cases, it's mobile, mobile, mobile. And that's just the way we live in today. To your point, everyone just threw out their office lines and home phones. So it's mobile is our main bread and butter. But you have to be training your reps differently than it was mobile, because you're going to get those people like, you're calling my cell phone on a business line, or how do you get this number? And you have to understand that's going to happen, and you have to speak to it wisely. And hey, your number was in Zoom info. And if I say that to somebody, it's not my fault, right? It's your number, right?
I
So
agree. I generally think that's the best tactic. Like whenever somebody emails me back with like a pissy attitude of how you got my information, usually I
yeah,
just tell them exactly how I got their information. I'm like,
100%.
I got it from this data bank or I got it from this platform. And they're
Yeah.
generally pretty appreciative of that.
Yeah, and now they know that it's there, and what are they going to do? Be mad at you? Like, it's not like you're stalking them. It's not like, how am I supposed to get the number? It's not,
Hmm.
you're on not this list somewhere. You're an important person in a database, and it was given to me. But I mean, I appreciate that. Do you not want me to tell you why I'm calling, or would you like me to give you some context? And you just be, and like just play with it a little bit. Be polite, of course. But mobile is definitely where we live right now in most of our outreach, for sure. And
Got
it
it.
gets and we have about a 21% connection rate across all of our ICP. Some
Wow.
are
Good.
single digits, some are, closer to 50. You're calling real estate agents, you're calling mortgage brokers, you're trying to sell them a platform for that industry. They pick up the phone. It's what they do. They have to, because they think
Right.
you're a customer.
Yeah.
You call an IT, VP of IT, it's a little bit challenging. So yeah, we play with that, but average, it's a little over 20%.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, that's good to know that the mobile side is there and that it is accessible as long as you're willing to retrain your pitch around the idea that you might have to put up with some objections around calling into mobile phones, but that's the ball game these days, and people will get over it. And at the end of the day, the guy that's going to cuss me out because I called his or her cell phone, that's not my client anyway. So.
And he's going to do the same thing on email, right? So it's like, now that he's not interested. You probably would have just ignored your email at this point, right?
Yeah, I love it. All right. So it wouldn't be a sales podcast if we didn't talk about AI. So,
Yeah,
what is your strategy with AI? I think there's probably some really interesting things that can be done around AI plus phone. I can tell you that I've gotten some calls from some scary AIs, ones that did and didn't tell me they were AIs and were very convincing and got me to pretty far down the rabbit hole, either just out of curiosity or even maybe, being good enough to trick me. But from what I've heard is you are on my side of the fence that AI is not going to replace salespeople at any point. Communication skills are going to continue to be important. AIs are not going to buy you steak dinners or take you to Lakers games. And you're still going to need to be able to communicate. All AI is going to do is allow us to essentially get more dials and get more information out there. And it will allow us to do some of the things around personalization and relevance faster so we can get more custom touch points out to clients versus maybe some of the automated things. And we'll get into your opinions around sequencing as well. But let me
sure.
let me toss it back to you for the AI portion.
Yeah. So AI is such just, a huge term that it's kind of like saying marketing. Like, okay, like how many facets of marketing are there? Like, are you a copywriter? Do you a graphic designer? Do you do video? You know what I mean? So there's so many things. So AI, yes, there's an amazing amount of space for AI to be in our space as well. Is it going to help our industry in a big way and augment it in a big way? 100%. I'm a huge fan of it. I like John Barros's example. Actually, he talks about that Minority Report with Tom Cruise, where he has that thing and he's moving things around in that scene, and it's like that's how like AI is going to be. But he's still in the driver's seat. I mean, I'm a big F1 guy. I wouldn't be excited about watching F1 cars go around a race track that were all remote control. You know
No.
what I mean? Like I want to see the driver in there making that thing happen. So there's amazing amount of technology sitting around that F1 driver that allows him to do it, and it's consistently getting better. That's what's exciting to watch every year. That's how I look at the seat of an SDR. Is you're sitting in an F1 car and you have all this technology around you to allow you to hopefully do your job better. That's how I look at it. And I think it's amazing. However, there's a lot of legalities, right? People calling using AI, it's not a business and a public number. It's illegal in the US. A lot of people don't even know that, right? So those robocalls, there's a lot of, legalities and things will come out. But my position is that I think AI is going to be a co-pilot and a way to allow us to do better research, a way for us to do more personalization and know your buyer better than ever. Also gives us, we use it in a way that allows us to reach people more effectively with a live call. So we have AI technology dialers that are actually making the call happen communication wise, but executing the call so we can connect with more people right at the right time. And then we can have a live conversation. So that's just my view on it.
Yeah, no, I love it. I'm always embracing new technology. I tend to be a little bit of a late adopter. I don't jump in right at the beginning. And at first I was just pissed off because I thought it was going to make so much more noise in the space and just make people who are putting time and effort into good outreach get drowned out. And so what? That's the world that we live in now. And where I kind of finally embraced it, I think pretty heavily, was I wrote a sales sequence myself, and then I tried one of these SDR AI, platforms, and they had better open rates, better reply rates, and better meetings booked. And I got a little disheartened at first, and I was just like, screw it, like I'm in. So then I just started letting these things run in the background, and they get a couple of meetings a week. Not enough to fill my calendar, that's for sure. Maybe I don't have the volume, maybe I'm not using one of these spam cannons that you guys talked about that like get the frequency to the level that could generate like a full calendar. But they do augment my own stuff with a couple of meetings a week. The other thing that I love telling my clients is like, if I'm like yesterday, I drove to LA. I had a coffee with an agency. I met with another client in the afternoon, and I was really only in the office until lunch. So, not much outreach would have happened in a normal time around that. But because I had some AI driven sequences sending stuff out, like that's still productivity for the day in my mind. But I've had some issues with deliverability recently. I've had a few email accounts get completely shut down, and I don't know if the squeeze is quite worth or the juice is quite worth the squeeze with some of the risks that you're taking, putting out even what felt like a small amount of volume compared to some of the other options that were out there. You got to be really careful if you want to keep your domain integrity and all of those things. So I don't know. I guess I'm kind of maybe pendulum coming back a little bit on how effective it can and can't be. But I do like components of it where it'll help you rewrite an email, or if it can pull in customized things like, John likes the Cubs, or he likes, cigars, or this or that. If that could be kind of dashboarded in, and then I can pick and choose the components that I want to, use. Like if I can be used for what I think creatives really have embraced, is that it's a creative co-pilot versus a, something that's going to do the work for you.
Yeah, I mean, there's amazing tools out there right now that if you just put in someone's LinkedIn address, it'll come back with you with everything you need to know about that person, what they think, what they do, what they say, what they like, what their team is. All it's insane. But it gives you again that ammunition to have articulate, good conversations and break through the noise. But AI I think could be abused in our space, because if you're spamming, it's just going to make better spamming, but you're still spamming. Does that make sense? So it's like no one wants spam. No, they don't even want better spam. Like it's still spam. So that's how I would look at it. But yes, to your point, there's regulations. There's a lot of things that are coming up. I'll give you an example. Google just released that all of the tracking images that go into emails for us to see open rates and
Oh,
click rates.
I love those
That
things.
that thing just went live, and now you're seeing a banner flag on every email that has one of those, and people are freaking out right now. So
Wow.
those there's things that are happening that are going to try to make it more challenging and make it harder. So
Yeah, well, makes sense. Well, I think another reason why the phone might be an interesting arsenal.
exactly.
It's old school. It doesn't have any tracking pixels. The only big
Right.
brother that's listening is the NSA or the FBI or whatever else. So another thing to be thinking about in your sequencing. So let's jump into the conversation around sequencing. I think you brought up some good issues with why sequencing is not a good thing. I think it's predictability. People start to feel like there's patterns coming at you, and that can be kind of like, oh, okay, another, day 3 of the sequence. Like I've got, you kind of start to recognize some of these things and they're easy to ignore. But you have this concept of bursting, which is kind of, going after a prospect in all relevant channels that you can, and then letting them kind of decide, what channel based on their uh, preferences that they like to communicate in. So you put in a call, you send a LinkedIn note, maybe you send an email, maybe you send a text. Maybe can feel like a lot, but if they don't see 3 of the 4, but they see the text and they're text people and they like the text, then now you know what channel to communicate with that prospect moving forward. So I'd love to hear a little bit about why you don't like sequencing and why you're a fan of this bursting idea.
I think you mentioned it. Like, I don't like sequencing to a point where it's been done for the last 7, 8 years since Marketo came out, right? And by the way, going back to AI, like, everyone fired all their SDR teams when Marketo said marketing automation is going to replace SDRs. And then they went into all of the technology there, and then it didn't work as they thought it was. No one was just signing up for stuff. And so then they hired all the SDRs back, and now SDRs use marketing automation. So it's the same concept. I think sequencing is great, but it's predictable, and it is just only one channel, typically in emails. So what we like to do is we'd like to burst all the channels. And I always say, like, if you need to get a hold of your mom, how are you going to do it? Well, you're going to do it in every way you possibly can, including smoke signals to get a hold of them, right? So text, call, phone, voice note, video, email, and a phone call. That's a lot of channels. And we did separate a few of them there with a voice note, a video note, right? There's a lot of different ways to connect with people these days. I don't want to say we're stalking the person and we're not calling them up saying it's an emergency, but we are going to use a series of ways to connect in a shorter period of time than we would if we were just sending a drip campaign, if you will, which is really a glorified sequence.
Yeah. In advertising, we have something we call the blue car effect, or
Okay.
the multi-channel theory, where if I see a banner ad, or if I see a TV ad, or if I see a billboard, or if I see a preview in a movie theater, whatever. But if I see it in 2 channels, then I pay attention because I'm like, oh, I saw the billboard. 5 seconds later, I saw the social ad. 3 minutes later, I saw the banner. And whether those things are connected or not, or whether you believe, Facebook is listening to you, that just adds to the maybe not surprise and delight, but the awareness of it. Like I just got a ad for a company called Social Cat that I've never looked for, but we've been talking about it quite a bit on phone calls internally. So, I think the same can be true for sales outreach. Like if I get an outreach from someone just over email, mostly I delete emails unless I know the person or unless the subject line really intrigues me. I fully delete spam and don't look at anything. But LinkedIn, I at least have to go through it all just to make sure that, I'm not missing anything. So got to do that. I might not do it every day, but I'll get to it. Even the frickin' birthdays and anniversary ones.
Right. Right. No,
And-
exactly. So if I really want to get a hold of Dylan, right, and I want to use the phone, and I've called you and you didn't pick up. So I send you a note on LinkedIn that's a voice note. So you heard my voice and I say, hey, listen, I just tried to reach you on the phone. I wasn't able to get you. I was really hoping to see if we can chat. I'll try you again in an hour. right? And just say that. And then I send a note on email too. Hey, just left you a voice note. It's going to give you a call in an hour. Didn't know if this is the best channel to reach you. But I'll ping you then. And now like you're almost like you're expecting the call. And if you do call in the hour, it's almost like now it's a warm call. You don't even know the guy, but you know that it's a warm call that it was 2 minutes ago because of that preemptive communication. And so those are the things we're talking about.
Yeah. How do you feel about calendar requests that people didn't order?
Oh, I don't like those.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a Will Aiken thing. He's like setting the calendar invite without any announcement. I mean, that's ballsy. Sorry.
oh man.
Yeah.
So
I think
yeah,
I'm a little nicer than that.
yeah, no, I like it. Yeah, you really perked my attention with the LinkedIn voice note. It's something that I have been like, oh, I wonder what that button does. Like I'm heavy LinkedIn, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm on there posting, I have 30,000 followers. I'm
Yeah.
probably posting, as often as I can, video content, podcast content. If I can't think of if I don't have a pipeline, I'm going to Reddit or LinkedIn or other places to source, something to write a quick post about. I'm going through all my messages. I'm going through all my connection requests. I'm going through the updates to see, the anniversaries and the birthdays and the job changes. And I never even thought about, the voice note seriously. When I was listening to your podcast, I just tried one just while I was doing it. And like literally I got a reply back like almost instantly. I think I'm going to go exclusive voice notes now.
Yeah. Oh, can I give you a trick?
Yeah.
So I'm a big emoji fan. If you see my LinkedIn, my daughter was on a video a couple days ago saying I need to use more emojis. And so I do that because of her. But there's a trick where when I do the voice note, the great thing about the voice note, it's mysterious, right? It's like that sign where it says don't press the button. We all go press the button, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. So it's the same thing with the voice note. You see nothing other than this voice note image, and you want to listen to it, right? You have to listen to it to see what it is. It's like an opening a Christmas present. So it's great. But what I like to do is I just do a literally the finger up emoji, right?
Yep.
I put 2 of them, and I said, here's a quick voice note, finger. And then
Uh-huh.
it literally it gets them to physically like push it, right? And they
Yep.
push it. And then I usually say, hey, listen, I don't know if you're a voice note person. No need to respond in a voice note, but I just want you to know I'm not AI. I'm a real person. I'm reaching out, and here's why I want to talk to you. And if
Yeah.
that's how I start my voice note, and it makes it immediately better than a text, which is, you try to stand out. Everyone's getting those things. You just got to be a little different. Also,
Yeah.
what's interesting is it's native. You can't
Mm,
automate this. It's highly
totally.
human to human. It's one-to-one. And so if people are like, wow, this person is literally talking to me right now, and they feel special.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think it also adds that element of, personality, right? Like you hear my voice. If we did have any type of relationship other than that we're connected on LinkedIn, even if it's a guy I met 10 years ago, maybe I've got some context and I can talk about that.
Yeah.
I think those are important, edges in a highly, distrusted world where we don't know if the LinkedIn stuff is coming from automations or real people. I always, I like your other point of like talk like you text, whether that's email, actually texting, or doing your LinkedIn. Try and make it look and feel like the way you text. Like, don't be over concerned with capitalization, use emojis. At one point I would just like go through my photos as like kind of like a soft ping. I would just go through my photo archive, like find something that was recent and just like send pictures and just be like, hey, how's it going? Just want to share a trip from, Disneyland with the kids. Thought you would enjoy this, and then it's like personalizing again, giving a picture. And then I think for some people, they were almost like guilted in a little bit like, man, this guy really feels like he knows me. I better respond.
Yeah. I mean, we're a Facebook generation. We're social media, right? I mean, it's the same thing. Like we're posting pictures of our family, our life, our anniversaries, our weddings on the internet for our network to see. And we've been doing this and everyone's used to that. You know, I haven't seen, I had just got married last year. I haven't seen my cousins in years. They came in town to get them to the wedding, but I knew everything that they're doing. I know how
Yeah.
big their kids are. I know what they're doing. I know what's going on. And it's all through that type of meetup. So use that type of tactics to humanize the conversation and make it feel authentic is the thing. I think the biggest thing with AI is that we don't trust it. And,
Mm,
you know, I think that right now it's all about trust. It's all about building relationships. Do we build them in different ways? Yeah, we're on a video call coast to coast. Usually would have to be in an airplane to do that. Are we able to send a picture now that we used to? Yeah, we used to have to, you know, get Polaroids to do that. So there's different ways, but it's all kind of the same. It's all about being a human, being authentic, standing out, and getting creative.
yeah. Uh, Tell me about your thoughts on gifting. It seems like you are not a fan. I am not a fan of like bribery gifting. Like, I don't think you should gift to get the call. Trust
Right.
me, I've sent $10,000 boxes of cigars to people. I've taken them to go see, you know, Grateful Dead down in Mexico for 3 days. You know, I've done some wild things as a salesperson, but never just to get my foot in the door. Like, you know, yeah, I'll bring you a coffee. I'll come to coffee. I'll do a lunch and learn. I'll do kind of the classic things if it's an in-person situation. But yeah, I didn't take the bait on the whole like gift card shotgun, you know, that COVID brought up. Like, I'll buy you virtual lunch and all that, maybe to my detriment. But I feel like we've maybe over-indexed, and I definitely see that as spam. I don't. It's I think John made a good point on your guys' podcast. If you're offering me $5 for 30 minutes of my time, then that is you putting a value proposition on my hourly rate at $10 an hour. So I'm
Right.
curious on your thoughts there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just a value prop. You know, I'll calculate my hours that I bring value to the marketplace, and it's probably going to be more than what you're sending me in a gift. I look at it as a bribery thing. Now, um, I'm a huge fan of gifting, to your point, for morale, for incentives, for motivation for our internal team, and providing prizes. It's, you know, money's not the only thing salespeople are excited about. So I think gifting is great. I just bought my entire leadership team a new book of their choice this month, and we do a lot of fun things like that. You know, month before that, we bought our team all new, you know, Under Armour, Alleyoop, you know, zip up tees because we hit our goal. And so we have a lot of fun with prizes and gifts internally. Same thing with prospecting, but it's after we started the relationship and to continue the relationship. But I think bribery to get a meeting is not a good idea.
Yep. No, I couldn't be more in agreement with that. You opened up the door for another question I wanted to ask you later, which is around bonusing and comp plan. I'm a big believer that comp plan dictates behavior. Any way you structure a comp plan, not only reps but other employees will they will optimize to the comp plan in all cases, whether that's KPIs, commissions, bonuses, whatever you set up to inform comp plan, they will optimize to. The other component that I thought was really interesting, though, that you brought up was the idea that not everybody is motivated just by a flat bonus or a flat, you know, sales metric. I mean, I'm coin operated. I definitely, you know, well, actually, that's not completely true. I took most of my comp bonuses over the last 8 years at my last company in equity. That was what was
Got it.
important, was to feel like an owner.
Yep.
But one of my best performing reps, all he wanted was a new Range Rover, so that's what he got. He got a company Range Rover, and then, you know,
Right.
I would have paid him enough money to go buy his own Range Rover, but for some reason he wanted us to buy it for him,
Yeah.
and that was totally fine. You know, that was actually, you know, I think a tax write off and an easier way for us to give him compensation. You know, that he would have well been worth, you know, more than that, but. Like you said, people are motivated by different things. So can you talk a little bit about how you kind of customize, maybe not comp plans completely, but like the elements of it that motivate your team?
Yeah, for sure. So to your point, you know, people will run through walls for recognition more than they would just for money. And a mentor of mine told me that a long time ago. And recognition is free. So we really have a culture where we're very competitive, but not cutthroat. We're always striving to be in the top 10, top 15. We have brackets. We're Alleyoop. Obviously we're a sports themed company name, so we take that in house. So all the team names have different NBA teams. We have coaches, so it's very fun in their environment. Just to kind of start with the incentive there. But then we have a normal comp plan, which is monetarial. But then we also did the survey, and we asked every new employee now. We did a survey company wide. We did this a few years ago. But now when a new employee starts, we ask them in their onboarding, hey, we do special monthly incentives above and beyond our normal comp plan for different things. If you won those, would you like to get paid in a bonus? Would you like to get paid in time off? Would you like to get paid in gifts? So we created a buffet of gifts that they can pick. And they get a guy just got a new big screen TV. Another guy got, designer Randolph Engineering custom glasses. Like we do weird stuff. And then, some people literally work to not work. They want time off, right? So they don't want to come in every Friday, so they get enough time off, or they don't come in on Fridays. This guy's got like enough time off because he's been in top five. So it's we do those things to make it custom and personal, and you can still do that at scale. You don't need 5 people to do it. We have 100 SDRs, and they can still do it. So that's how we do that.
Nice. Can you explain to the audience what a parallel dialer is? Or you alluded to a little bit to, AI being helpful in the dialing process. What are those tools, and how can us sales leaders take advantage of them?
Yeah, so we use Orem. We also were their SDR agency when they started. We have a great relationship with them. They've been doing it. They're amazing, and they were the ones that invented parallel dialing. Essentially, there's other companies out there to not just plug them. To be fair, there's Nooks is out there, Salesfinity is out there, Concert is out there. All 4 of those companies are all parallel dialing technologies. Now, what is a parallel dialer? What is a power dialer? What is click to dialing? So HubSpot, click to dial. You actually have to click a phone number on your phone, on your computer, and it activates the dial. It's the slowest way of doing it, but it's very, methodical and very pre-researched before you do it. A power dialer is essentially a phone call that is happening once that initial phone call ends. So if the phone call goes into voicemail, or if the phone call doesn't get picked up, you hit end, and then all of a sudden the next one starts calling right away. So it allows you to go in sequence with a little bit more control. It is faster than a click to dial, but it gives, just one-to-one type of calling. Parallel dialing is like that on steroids. So you can actually call up to 10 numbers at once.
Whoa.
At scale. So it literally is calling, and it's not exactly at once. It's like rotating, but it's so fast that a human can't do it. So it's almost exactly the same time, if you will. So it's rotating almost 10 dials. Now, we don't do 10, frankly. We keep it at around 3 to 5, depending on the data we have, because we don't want to burn data.
Yeah.
And if we don't have a smaller market to go after, we don't want to waste time on, calling everyone. But at the end of the day, yeah, you can call 2, 3, 4 people at once, and then literally first person who picks up wins. So just hit play and you wait, and all of a sudden someone says hello and you're in a conversation. So it really takes a lot of that manual feeling or that voicemail all day feeling away, and it even drops those voicemails right on the person's line as well if you want to. So
Yeah.
it increases our connection rates, and that's why we use it.
Yeah, and I imagine it creates a little bit of a jump ball mentality with a rep that whoever hits the button first wins, right?
100%. And you got to be on your game, right? Like, you can't be drinking water and all of a sudden someone says hello, you're going to be messing up. So you got to be on your game. And we have what we call a sprint schedule system that allows us to not burn our reps out for just sitting there all day long, dialing thousands of people. We do it tactfully. We do it with a lot of breaks throughout our day. But it is intense. I'm not going to lie. It's like that F1 car you're sitting in. It's more intense than, driving the minivan. But at the end of the day, you are able to, execute some serious conversations throughout the day.
That's cool. Pretty epic. I think, probably too early in my group it. We're probably not big enough to need that kind of volume at once, but I think knowing about those types of tools, and definitely some folks on the call will be interested to learn about that.
Well, something to
So,
think about is like it also is great for those those AEs, right? Like of course we want SDRs, but those AEs who only have, let's say, an hour a day to really focus on prospecting, well, you can make 75 calls in an hour and not have to spend all day doing it, but you can knock out 75 dials and have 3-4 conversations in an hour that would typically take you majority of your morning to do something like that.
yeah, and if some of them go to voicemail, no harm, no foul. That's just a missed call from you.
For sure.
Yep. No, that's great. I like that. So I think we would be remiss if we don't talk about the 10 objections. I found that a really fascinating topic that, in any given situation, really, it kind of comes down to the hero's journey. There are certain things to be true about sales, different types of objections, and then you can kind of break that down to your category. It probably gets a little bit more specific. But I know for a guaranteed fact, working in the boiler rooms that I worked on, there were no new conversations. There were the same things over and over again. And you got good at kind of threading the needle and trying a few different rebuttals and ways with the prospect. And then you just kind of let them go if you really knew it wasn't a buyer. But you alluded to the idea of being able to predict the future almost. And, you're playing on an unfair playing field when you really get good at understanding what the objection tree is with your ICP and plotting that out and making sure your reps are razor sharp on that. Can you maybe address a little bit about the 10 objections idea?
Yeah, I just look at it like a comedy show, right? You go to the comedy show, you watch, Adam Sandler perform for the first time, and for you, it's the first time, and this is amazing, and that's incredible, and it sounds so natural and authentic, and it's like, wow, he just came up with that stuff. And then you realize you watch him on Netflix 6 months later, and it's the same exact thing, right? He literally just did all the same jokes. So to me, as a first-time listener, it's all new information. But for someone who is literally has scripted that out, it's the same thing every time. Another analogy is baseball, right? There, you can get a fastball, you can get a changeup, you can get a curveball. You get trained how to respond to a fastball. You get trained in how to respond to a specific type of pitch. Well, similarly here, after doing 7 million calls a year, we figured out that there's about 10 buckets that you're going to be able to put every call into. Now, is there only 10 things you'll ever hear? No, you're going to hear thousands of things, but you can classify thousands of responses into 10 buckets that you can have something ready to respond and to say, oh, yeah, that's that one. I got this one done. Boom, boom, boom. Here it comes. And you can do all that in a second with practice and training and rehearsal. And it's only 10 scenarios. So do you want to hear what they are?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So I break down timing into two. So it's personal timing and company timing. So I'm busy on PTO. That's personal timing. Company timing is, hey, we just launched a new initiative. Call me in 6 months. So those are timing. That's two. I'm not the decision maker, but I'm the champion. So I'm saying not the decision maker, but I still want a meeting with that person. How do I respond to that? I'm not the decision maker, and they're really not. There's going to be a referral. So I don't want to talk to that person. I just realized after they told me what they do, but I want to get someone else how do I deal with that? Now I am the decision maker, but I delegate this off to someone else. So I'm calling the CEO, but he's just delegated to the VP of sales. So that's 3 for decision makers. Then you got competition. I have something you have already in place, right? I'm working with HubSpot. I'm trying to sell you Salesforce. Mm-hmm. Then you got the money or budget objection. That's 7. Then send me the email. That's the normal one you hear. Great. Send me the email or send me more information or send me a case study. Send me something more.
Yeah.
Right? Which usually is, I call that a fake objection because it's
it's totally. We have that, we call it the Heisman. It's like basically like the nice thing to do in the influencer marketing space, which has been a vertical that I've spent the last 8 years in. It's like, oh yeah, send us your roster, or send us your talent sheet. It's basically a stroke. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last two, this is my fastball, is the not interested, right? They just come back, boom, just not interested. And like, how do you get out of that? And then the last one is the gatekeeper. So how do you handle the actual the gatekeeper itself? And we actually break that down into two subcategories: uh, a receptionist and an executive assistant. Very different people, both gatekeepers, and you treat them almost polar opposite of each other. So
Yeah.
that those are the 10 buckets that we come across almost on every single thing that we ever pitch to anybody.
Well, I smell another episode where we go deep on the 10 objections.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, the gatekeeper one. I'll give a quick funny anecdote from when I was working the boiler rooms in LA. Like I mentioned, we were calling, attorneys, and we were actually trying to get them to invest in movies. So we're trying to get them to specifically invest in a movie about famous court cases. So we had raised money to produce a movie about the Scottsboro Boys. So we had one in the bag and had some credibility because we had actually brought a film to market that was successful. And then because we had done it with attorneys, we decided to do a second film about Sacco and Vanzetti, another famous court case, again with 900 attorneys as equity partners. So the number one way that gatekeepers at law offices will get you off the phone is they'll just ask you about what case you're calling about. So I got really smart, and I actually was like, I'll tell them I'm calling about the Sacco and Vanzetti case. And most of these attorneys, they got into law because of things they met in there. They picked their vertical expertise because of case studies that they studied in college. And Sacco and Vanzetti is still rolling around in the back of their head. They have no idea why. So I'd tell the the EA, oh yeah, it's about Sacco and Vanzetti. They would be shocked that I was actually calling about a case. They'd call back to the lawyer, Sacco and Vanzetti case. And the lawyer knew the name but couldn't figure out why, and then they'd pick up 95% of the time if I could get the front desk gal to shout back and give the Sacco and Vanzetti case, and then I could fire right in. But yeah, there's the kind of the kill them with kindness component too.
Yes.
Really focus on don't take advantage of the fact that the executive assistant is there to do your bidding. Like really spend time and try and spend as much time on he or her in building rapport and doing the things that you need to do as you would with the prospect, because ultimately they might be reading emails. They have the ability to delete or forward or flag your email. They have the ability to put you into voicemail, put you on the calendar. You want them on your side.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the receptionist is interesting because, hey, this is Microsoft. How do I direct your call? Right. That right there is less is more, to your point. Not in a manipulation way or smoke and mirrors. It's like, yeah, looking to speak with Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, Dylan who? Oh, okay. Yeah. And then, it's like, I don't tell my name. I don't tell my company. I'm not pitching them. I'm just saying, hey, I'm just trying to, I want them thinking I'm Dylan's brother, trying to connect with them through the hotline, right? Or through the menu.
Yep.
Yeah, switchboard. And then the executive assistant, to your point, it's kill 'em with kindness. That's where gifts actually may come into play, right? Hey, Sally, listen, I got a job to do here. My boss, Dylan, is asking me to speak with your boss, Bob. How do I get on this guy's calendar so we can connect the two bosses? You know what I mean? So it's like I pretend I'm the executive assistant. I'm the SDR calling as the executive assistant on behalf of my sales manager, and I'm friending them up as much as I can and loving on them as much as I can so they can, do their job, because I'm doing my job and I'm at the same level, if you will. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, no, I love it. Well, look, I think that's a great place for us to wrap up. I know I've taken an hour for your time and it's late out there on the East Coast. We appreciate you, Gabe. So why don't you give me a little bit of what you're excited about for the future of the work that you guys are doing at Alleyoop, and then I'll close us out by letting the viewers know what to expect based on our partnership in the coming months.
Yeah, I mean, we're really excited about what we're doing right now. We're adding content, doing these things. We're doing this for our clients, where we're actually creating some amazing opportunities for them to get their brand out. Of course, the prospecting function is our bread and butter, but we're doing a lot more than that. We're launching programs which allows enterprise companies to have our SDRs sit in their ecosystem, and really, allows huge companies to work with us. We just brought Peloton on. It's been super fun. And then we have certain areas where, founder-led sales and companies we're now offering opportunities for even smaller companies. So we're widening the gap, if you will, and having a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah, I love it. I think you guys mentioned that you could grow faster if you wanted, but I kind of think of you guys as the in and out of sales agencies. You want to control your supply chain and your product, and you don't want to grow too fast to where you lose some of those elements that make that in and out burger so good. So
yeah, we're not a call center, and we'll never be a call center, and that is something we always want to stay away from. We are a human to human virtual sales team that puts human first, and that's what we want to do.
Awesome. Well, do you want to point anybody in a certain direction if they want to get in touch?
Yeah, like you, LinkedIn is where, my go-to. We respond all direct messages. Our website information is there. I post every day. And if you need anything, we'll be there to help you and talk with you.
Perfect. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you enjoyed the conversation that I had with Gabe tonight. You can follow along as we continue our partnership. The next call that you guys will see us on for the podcast will basically be walking through with Gabe and his team on how we actually go through a campaign setup, all the things that are required. So you guys will literally watch me be the guinea pig in the Alleyoop process and see behind the curtain of exactly how all the sausage is made and how a campaign gets set up. And then super excited because they are going to be dialing in on my behalf to set up C-suite guests for the podcast. So what a great use case and application. So thanks again, Gabe, for taking me up on the challenge. And we're excited to take the viewers along for that ride. So for those of you who are watching along at home, if you enjoyed the conversation today and you don't already, please subscribe or follow us wherever you're listening or watching the show. And if you review the show, that is how we find a new audience more organically. So don't forget to give us your honest review. And most importantly, if there's a sales leader out there, if there's an SDR who's fed up and looking for an awesome place to work, or if there is somebody in the marketing world at a B2B enterprise that you think would enjoy the conversation that I had with Gabe tonight, don't forget to share the episode. And with that, Gabe, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks so